Rochelle Floyd, ACE Education Director.
No, that's really
Scholarships. Yes. She's got a promotion. And it's the kind of reason. So scholarships. Yeah.
Scholarship director.
Scholarship director. Yeah. Eric keeps telling me he's going to change it again, but we haven't agreed on anything yet. So, do I need it?
Yeah, they'll be here.
Okay. I really hate talking on a microphone, but I'll give it a whirl.
We can hear you there.
Okay. Well, my name is Rochelle Floyd. Like she said, I'm the scholarship director right across the street. I work with all of the students in any of our scholarship programs, so anything dealing with flight training, college tuition, internships, as well as other opportunities. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an idea of some of the other programs that I work with, like the Career Fair during the air show, Project Stratus, that's going to be coming out very, very soon, hopefully by next month. Not by next month, but during next month, as well as tell you some tips and tricks and things for scholarships if you're interested in that. A little bit about myself. I've been at ACE for 6 years now. I did start there as the education director, so that was correct one day. I am a pilot myself. I got my pilot license right out of high school. That is not the route that I wanted to go as a career, so I went and got myself a civil engineering degree, and I worked in civil engineering until 2008. I did land development, and in 2008, for some reason, people didn't want to develop anymore land. So my mother-in-law worked at Bach Academy in Lake Wales, the middle school, and I just happened to accept a position in there as a para. And then the following year or so, I was offered a job as a teacher. I did not have a background in teaching, so I really had no idea what I was doing. But what he being my administrator allowed me to do was develop the STEM and the aerospace curriculum for the middle school. So that was right up my alley as a pilot and as an engineer. And he didn't really put any limitations on me, so he let me do all these wild and crazy projects, take students on flights, and all kinds of cool stuff. We had flight simulators, so I worked with students. So then I ended up teaching summer camp here and just fell into a full-time position here and then became the education director. So as the education director, I worked with all of the students that came through here on field trips, summer camps, any of our community programs. I went to a lot of different schools with our portable aircraft and planetarium and just doing a lot of community and other events. So I was around students a lot, which that was never my intention. I do thoroughly enjoy working with the students, and that's why I'm doing what I do today, because I still get to kind of walk them through their progress through flight training, mentor them, aid them in things that they need additional assistance in, and celebrate their successes with them. So that's really what I enjoy doing, and I'm here to help all of the students here. So I'm going to show you a little bit about our website. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that our website is getting a major updo, or it's going to redo on October 1st.
Renovation.
Yes, so it's not going to look anything like this, but hopefully it will be a lot more user friendly. I hope. This is our current website. It's aceedu.org. And you can see the tabs at the top: the educational programs, Skylab, Innovation Center, Summer Camp, Scholarships, that's me, and the Aerospace Campus. So if you go to the Scholarships tab, I do still have one on my desk. It is wireless, but I still have one. So eventually, when our new page comes out, you're going to have a drop-down box like this that lists all of these scholarship and internship opportunities instead of trying to find them on this one single page right here. So currently, I know I saw some of you guys out there looking at the bricks. Do you all know what that is? So if you're not aware, that is the Solo to Success. So every student that is a student at CFAA or has gone through our scholarship program receives a brick after their first solo. So there are 316 student names out there right now, I think. Somewhere around there.
Can you sponsor a brick?
Yes, you can. You can. We have done that in the past, but I think this year we're looking bigger and we're looking for somebody or an organization to sponsor the entire program. So with all of the bricks, we have about 30 students approximately every year that will place their brick. The bricks for us to be engraved. Anyway, we're looking at about a $2,500 sponsorship. So if you know of anybody or you yourself are interested, that would be an opportunity to be engaged in our community event out here that recognizes those students for that wonderful accomplishment. But that's what this is. Again, this whole website is about to change. So if you scroll all the way down here, this lists the scholarships that we currently offer. The ACE scholarship is a scholarship for seniors for college tuition. It is sponsored through the Polk Education Foundation. When you click on all of these blue things, it drops down to give you details. So this one actually has to be applied through the PEF website. I don't think they open until February-ish. And you do have to fill out a FAFSA prior to applying for this. They have, I don't know, 800 or something scholarships available. They give out $1 million or so from any and every interest that your student could ever have. So obviously ours is based around aerospace, but if your student's interested in becoming a culinary artist or a doctor or an engineer or whatever, there's a scholarship through the Polk Education Foundation for your student. That one is not one that's renewable through us, so it's a one-time award. The James Ray Continuing Education Scholarship, again, that one is for seniors for college tuition. This one is an annual award of up to $5,000 up to 4 years. That's $20,000 that we are offering the students that graduate from CFAA. If they stay in a college in Polk County, Polk State, Florida Southern, Florida Poly, SEU, any of those here in Polk County, it's $5,000. If they go outside of the county, it's limited to $2,500 per year, but they're still eligible for 4 years after high school.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do they have to only apply, you said they're eligible for 4 years, so like if they're 2 or 3 years out of high school but graduated from today, they're still eligible to apply?
Correct. Yes, once they graduate high school, one of the questions on the application is your class for high school, and then you're eligible for 4 years after that. So if you're beyond that, even if you skipped a year of college, then you're not eligible. So you're only eligible for 4 years after high school.
So you have to apply while you're in high school, or if they were?
Yeah, so the student's senior year, that'll be the first time that they apply for this. The applications are typically due around February. And that's pretty common because schools are out in May, early June, and that gives the organizations a chance to review all of the applicants and select their recipients and then do all of the paperwork. This is, but the students do have to apply every year. So if they're not reapplying, then they're not going to be eligible. I mean, they are eligible, but they're not going to be awarded. The Top Gun Scholarship. The Top Gun Scholarship is a scholarship that you have to apply for, but this is to recognize a very high achieving student. CFAA does not have a valedictorian themselves. They go along with Kathleen. So this is kind of our way of recognizing the student from CFAA that has achieved great things. This doesn't mean that this person has the highest GPA. This means is very highly accomplished, very involved in the community. They have excelled. This is one that they have to apply for, like I said. So a lot of times I'll hear students say, I already know who's going to get it because Parker was a CFI last year when he graduated. If Parker doesn't apply, he can't be awarded. So we highly encourage students to apply for this. And we are not the deciding factor of who receives this. This is a scholarship provided by a donor. So ultimately, it's the donor that selects the recipient. And this is a $5,000 scholarship as well. This is a one-time scholarship. Obviously, we have a new student every year. Their name goes on the side of the F-14 out there, and we do a big promotional thing for the student being the top gun. The John Light Slinghouse Scholarship is a new scholarship that will be available to the seniors this year. This is something to recognize our former CEO, and we want the applicants to mimic what his aspirations and hobbies were. Lights was a naval pilot. He really liked cars. He rode a motorcycle. He liked turning a wrench. So things like that, similar interests, then your student would want to apply for this one. The JS Firm Airframe and Power Plant. This is specifically for a student that wants to attend a school where they can receive their A&P certification. So most of the students go to Travis. I think it still says on here that it's a requirement, but it, however, is no longer a requirement that the student attend Travis, just as long as they want to complete their A&P certification. And the JS Firm Engineering Scholarship. Obviously, they're named JS Firm because the organization is the one that donates the funds for the scholarship. So again, these are opportunities for you guys if you want to do any kind of supporting of anything that's in your specific interest, then you can reach out to us and we can facilitate it for you and help you administer it. Engineering, again, the same. The student has to have a desire to seek a degree in the engineering field. Silver Wings Fraternity. Again, Silver Wings Fraternity has sponsored this scholarship. And these are just all of the ones that are specific to what we offer directly through us. So, of course, you can read all of the eligibility requirements. All of the scholarships that I've mentioned so far are for seniors, so those are going to be college-paying scholarships. The one that I'm sure you guys are the most interested in is the flight training scholarship. These are all of the other organizations, EAA, AOPA, Women in Aviation, that offer scholarships. So these are just links here. It is very difficult to update this list as fast as these change. So some of them may be beyond the deadlines. They may not be currently open. So this is just something that you could, and I've tried to be a little more specific about who is eligible because some of them are very specific. But again, it's really hard to keep track because they change so quickly. But I try to add new ones and keep you guys informed. And I'm always sending, I don't know who gets the emails when I send Plains emails, but I try to send out stuff whenever we have stuff upcoming or deadlines. I try to keep you guys in the know. And our flight training scholarships. So I know I'm going to have a lot of questions about this one, and Audrey sent me some questions. But what's required for a student to get their private pilot license? So a student has to be 17 years old. And I will tell you that with our scholarship, the James Ray Scholarship, we do not allow students to apply until they're 16 years old. The reason for that is because we require the student to complete the program within a year. So if they applied before they were 16, then they wouldn't even be eligible for a check ride because they wouldn't be 17 yet. So in order to be eligible for our scholarship, they have to be at least 16 years old. There's a lot of education if you're not familiar with the flight training process. That there's different types of flight schools. There's a Part 61, there's a Part 141, so you get really into a lot of the technical things, but we only work with Part 61 schools. Part 61 schools, they require 40 hours of flight training, and it's broken down into how much time of that is with a flight instructor, how much is solo, how much is at night, how much is with simulated instrument. So it's all broken down for you as far as what's required. Are your students going to go over what is required? Most likely, and that's normal. It's the students that are out there doing their training. They're at the airport 3-4 times a week. They're doing their ground school at home. They're accomplishing these things pretty rapidly that are going to be closer to that 40-hour mark. It's the students that are out there once a week, not really studying at home, that it's going to take them quite longer and it's going to be more expensive. Our scholarship for flight training is limited to $12,000. And that's only if the student is an active volunteer with us at ACE. So if they're not currently volunteering with us, then this scholarship is limited to $11,300. And those awards are awarded in chunks based on their progression through the program. So the $11,300 will and has paid for an entire training of a private pilot certificate if the student is diligent and going through training like we expect. We do put a lot of expectations on the student. There is a lot of communication with us. I communicate probably on a weekly basis with their instructors, with the flight schools, with the finance departments. We're all kind of in it together. If the student is awarded an award, for instance, when you click on this link, we have changed this. It was changed the beginning of the year, I believe, in January. So now what we're doing is we're offering students to apply for the GIFT program. GIFT is an acronym for Glimpse into Flight Training. And what that is, it's kind of like a trial period into the James Ray Scholarship program. Because what we found is we were sending all of these students out with $5,000. Here you go solo an airplane, good luck. That didn't work out very well. So what we're doing now is we're becoming more involved with the student. We're using the resources that we have in our new Skylab facility, and we're helping the student be more financially responsible and teaching them some of the basics that we can here on campus without charging them before sending them to the flight school and trying to teach them how to read an airspeed indicator when they're in the air. A cockpit is not a very friendly classroom. So we're trying to help the student learn all of the basics here before we even send them to the flight school. The GIFT program, we expect the student to complete within a month because that kind of puts those expectations on them. And if they can't complete it within a month, then maybe now is not the right time that they're in the program. So sometimes we'll have students that are the captain of the swim team and it's right in the middle of swim season and they don't really have time to dedicate to this. Then this is the program that opens our eyes and allows us to say, okay, this is not the right time for you. Let's wait till swim season is over and then we'll get you back involved in it. This is also a time for the students to say, yeah, I didn't really know what I was signing up for. It's really hot in those airplanes. It's really bumpy. I don't think I want to do this anymore. And that does happen. So it's an opportunity for the student to bow out and say, yeah, no thanks. Also, so it works two ways for us. We also, through the GIFT program, we provide $1,000 for flight training. So the student is actually going to the flight schools, selecting a flight provider, and receiving $1,000 will pay for almost 5 hours typically of flight time. So they're getting a little bit of experience in the air, and then they're coming back to us. Their flight instructor does an evaluation on them. They do a self-evaluation, and then we decide whether or not the student's going to move into the solo portion. So the solo portion is an additional $4,000, and they're given an additional 5 months to solo the aircraft. Most students will do that well within that time. One of the important things when selecting a flight provider is availability. There's quite a few flight schools here on Lakeland Field that I work with. I work with Bartow, I work with Plant City, Winter Haven, so there's options. Some of the flight schools only have one airplane. Some of the flight schools only have an instructor that works on the weekends. So there's a lot of things to consider when selecting a flight school. The prices range everywhere from, I think, $114 an hour is the lowest for the aircraft, and $190, I think, is the highest. And then your flight instructors are also going to have various charges. So I need to put it on the new website. There's a recommended list of questions to ask a flight school as well as a flight instructor. So, and then once the student solos, they have, yes, ma'am.
I have a question for you. So can you please tell me, when they do the lifts into flight training, what are they learning at age that CFAA isn't teaching them?
That is a great question. So it varies depending on the student. So if they're in Mr. Clements, is that his name?
Right.
If they're in his class, they breeze through, and I'm not going to hold them to the 5 hours of ground school. If they're walking right through without a problem, then we'll complete it within an afternoon and say, okay, let's move on. If they're a student that's more interested in engineering or UAS, then they may not be as knowledgeable in some of those fields that we're going to teach them about the aircraft. So it just varies by student. And of course, the scholarship is open to students all over Polk County. So we have a lot of applicants that are not from the school or from CFAA East in Winter Haven. So it's dependent on the student, and we typically pair the students up. So we're not teaching one student at a time.
Did you also love some of your preferred criteria student?
Yes, it's on my list. Can freshmen apply for the scholarship? If the freshman is 16, sure. What can my student do to make sure they're one of the best qualified candidates? Okay, so here's your question. I received all of the applications. I read all of the essays. I interview all of the students. It is not only myself. I do have a team that works with me with all of the scholarships. But some of the things that get on my nerves, I pay attention to the details. And first of all, I don't want, if the student is genuinely interested in wanting to be a pilot, then that student needs to be reaching out to me and asking these questions. I'm not trusting the parent to fly the aircraft. I want to know that the student is interested and that the student is taking the initiative themselves to ask these questions, to fill out their application, to get their recommendation letters, and do all of the things that are required, because it's a lot of work to fly an aircraft. You have to be able to multitask, and you've got to be responsible. You've got to be able to communicate. So all of these things are very important whenever I'm communicating with parents or students that are wanting to get the scholarship. So of course, I love talking to parents. I'm willing to help in any way I can, but when it comes down to the nuts and bolts of receiving the scholarship, I want to hear from the student. This doesn't really apply anymore because our applications are now electronic. When they were paper, we would have people submitting things that, or not submitting things that were required. I think that this new system is kind of self-explanatory. It is relatively new. We just went live with this in May. So if you're going through it, if you find any bugs or anything, please let me know. You're not going to hurt my feelings, and we can go in, and typically it's a pretty easy fix. When we are interviewing the students, and I'll be very transparent with you, we have a parent interview with the student. Well, I will say attend the interview with the student. I don't expect to hear a lot from the parents. Sometimes I do, and that's not a bad thing. But I want to talk to the student, but having the parent there really gives me insight as to where the motivation is coming from. So is it the student that really wants it? Is the student going to be capable of successfully completing the program? Is the parent wanting to live vicariously through their child? Of course, I've seen it. So we really want a parent there, and we want to know that the parent support is there as well. That's a big thing too, because we have to know that the parent's going to help and the parent's not going to interfere in a negative way. I know a lot of moms get stressed out when their kid's going to be in an aircraft all by themselves, and this is a totally new thing for them. So we just want, it's a partnership in that. And we kind of expect the applicants to treat it as in applying for a job. We're paying them up to $12,000. So we expect them to be researching the company, know who James Ray is, know what they're applying for, go get some experience and make sure they're going to like it first. So we expect them to treat it as a job. Essays. Man, I've read some poor ones, but I've read some excellent. Have someone, or your students should have someone read over it. If you are not a great essay writer yourself, that person may not be you. So have someone that is knowledgeable in essay writing read over these essays. Now they are submitted electronically, so there's a lot of, there are no excuses of typos and things of that nature anymore. So please have someone read over it. Make sure it answers the questions that you're asked to write about. And it is very specific as far as what the interest of the student is. So parents can't write it for the student, because a lot of times I'm going to say, who wrote this essay? But be compelling. I can't tell you how many essays I've read that start off with, when I was a little kid, I would always look up at the sky and dreaming of being up there. They almost all say that. So be creative. One thing that we do look for is extracurricular activities. We really do like to see that. We like to see that you're involved in the community, that you can work as a team, that you're engaged in the aviation community. So we like to see these things, but again, like I said, we're trying to push on you as to treat this as a job. Then we don't want you to overwhelm yourself. So know when your time is right to apply for the scholarship, and know that that's going to take about a year of your school year, or your those precious high school years. It's going to consume about a year of that time. So we expect you to focus on that. And we're very understanding. Our timelines are pretty flexible. We know there's weather in Florida. We know there's aircraft maintenance. Things like that are very flexible. The funds are something that I can't be flexible with, though. Some of the good practices of the students are, just social media, for one. Don't have raunchy things out there on your social media. I had a young man just recently that we interviewed, and he was using an app for ground school. And I asked him what it was, and he didn't know what the name of it, what it was. But he turned his cell phone around to me, and it had vulgar words that I don't say on it. And he's showing this to me in his interview. So have a professional appearance, and not just during the interview, but at all times, because you never know who's going to be in a room. A lot of our scholarship students have had some really wonderful opportunities. We've got our alumni are out there all over the world now in careers and doing awesome things. But even the students that are here especially during the week of the fly-in. If they're representing themselves really well, if they're acting professional, then they're going to have more opportunities than those who don't. I think I may have answered all the questions on here. Do I have any questions on scholarships? Yeah.
You still have funds available from the beginning of solo up to solo, but are there funds available after solo to get in there?
Yes, I think I got sidetracked.
Yes.
So after they solo, the student has 90 days to complete their written exam after their solo. I highly recommend completing that exam prior to that because, yes, flying is the fun part, but if you're waiting until you solo to start studying for that written exam, 90 days goes by really fast. So they're probably going to be on what we call them grounded because they're not allowed to fly anymore. So their funds are frozen if they don't complete that written exam. The written exam is good for 2 years. So take it now before you even apply. And I can tell you that the way the scholarship applications are currently working, we have so many applicants every month, but we are only awarding 2. So as word of mouth and the Winter Haven students are applying a lot more now. So as that pot continues to grow, then it kind of is a bottleneck effect. So we want the students that are standing out, that are engaged in the aviation community, that are taking the initiative to move forward on their own, passing the written exam, getting a medical, becoming a member of the Lakeland Aero Club, which I think Mike sees here next month.
Yes.
So it's these things, going out to the flight school, getting a discovery flight. They're taking the initiative on their own. So
if they apply once, they're good. It doesn't mean they may not be approved for 6 months from now.
correct. The students can apply every single month from the 1st through the 7th of the month. And the way this system works right now, once they submit their application, then they go into the review process. And I know I haven't answered your question yet, and I will, I promise. But then it goes into the review setting of their portal. And then once all of the interviews and everything are completed, and we do interview every applicant. So either at the end of the month, the student is awarded the scholarship, which is going to be the gift program. Unless the student's already started flight training, then they may be exempt from that basic knowledge and just roll right into the solo portion. But they can apply every month. I lost my train of thought, but back to your question. So once they solo, they have that 90 days to complete the written exam, and they're awarded $3,000 beyond their solo. Once they complete the written exam, they're awarded the extra $3,300 to complete the written exam, to complete their certificate. So it's $1,000, $4,000, $3,000, $3,300. And we have just recently received a partnership with ASA, which if you don't know who that is, it's a company that provides ground school testing supplements. They have FAA written practice tests in ground schools. So they partnered with us to provide every scholarship recipient with that. So now we're going to start placing requirements on their ground school as well. So that may change the funding a little bit. I don't know yet. But that's something that should help the students complete that written exam sooner rather than later, and then overall benefit the student. And what we're trying to accomplish is making better pilots and quality pilots, not just receiving a certificate. Sure. Any other questions on scholarships? I know that's a lot of information. I'm trying to get something tangible created so that I could say, here, this will answer all of your questions. Yes, Jack.
Good question.
Okay.
If they're not at the age of 16, we offer life sport or flyer scholarships.
Currently, so that's kind of a trick question. No, but for this scholarship right here, you have to be 16 years old. Mike Z will elaborate more on the other opportunities for students that are younger. Those are opportunities that are not application-based. Those are, you're an awesome student, you're deserving of this opportunity. So there are opportunities for the students that want to develop that kind of rapport with the community and get engaged and get themselves out there.
Question number 2, discovery flights, headsets, equipment, stuff like that, can that be deducted from the scholarship?
So flight training will not be paid. So discovery flight, no.
Okay.
Currently, Bartow offers discovery flights for $85. So they're still somewhat reasonable. 1 second. So if you go get a medical or pass your written exam, you can save your receipts and those are reimbursable. If you want to go and purchase a new headset once you become a scholarship recipient and we can see that you're going to have funds remaining, then it will be reimbursable. But we prefer that the funds go towards flight training first. Yes, sir.
I just want to make a comment that perhaps can benefit some of the people here. Through the Experimental Aircraft Association, there's a program called the Young Eagles Program. My son is in it through the Civil Air Patrol, because we're both in Civil Air Patrol, but once you sign as a Young Eagle, they will provide you the opportunity to take a discovery flight at no cost. They will give you the opportunity to, through Sporty's pilot shop, to get a whole ground school course completely free. And once you decide that you're ready to take your written test, you can go and take your written test, you pay for it, and they will, if you pass the test, they will reimburse you. And the fee is normally about $150 to $200. So for people on a limited budget, there's a lot of opportunities out there that can complement the program that you offer.
And next month, Michael will talk about the Young Eagles in more detail. I think I had a question back here.
Mine was basically going to be back in a sense, because if my son's already with the EAA chapter, has some of the hours, some of the stuff, would that then be part, or how would that work with the gift, or obviously because we already have with the young people?
Right. When you fill the application out, there is a question in there that asks how many hours has the student already logged. Along with that, there's an opportunity for you to upload an image of their logbook so that we understand what that experience has been. Is it a Young Eagles flight? Is it a flight with grandpa? Is it a flight with my cousin down the street? Or is it a flight with the flight instructor that's been instructing them for a month now? So I think it's pretty well laid out on the application process. Again, if not, let me know.
Do you have business cards you can hand
I
out?
do, and it's funny you mentioned that because I noticed that my new business cards, because I was running low, had my incorrect cell phone number. So, because I would like for you guys to contact me if you want to, I have my old business cards, which do say education director, but all of the contact information is correct.
So how about if we leave them up front? We can get a card.
Yep.
If not, I'm assuming you can walk across the street,
Yes.
possibly find you.
Yep.
So if we have other questions afterwards, come pick up a card, hold them up here, or walk across the street.
Yeah, and like I said, I always email the scholarships and, hey, the application process is open now. Not for this one, because this would be every month. But when those college tuition scholarships start rolling around, I'm always emailing them out so they are available to you. I have scholarships that are left on the table. That means no one is applying for them. So please have your students apply for them. I don't like leaving money out there and telling the donor that we don't have anyone to give them this year. I do want to mention really quick, if I have another minute, about Project Stratus. This is another program that we're going to be rolling out next month. We are basing this project around digital media this year. So previously, the students have always received a really nice upscale camera. We've had some very generous donors who have provided them with Nikons and Canons and Sonys and all kinds of fancy things. So this year we're trying to go after the vlogging cameras where they can upload whatever it is that they're experiencing. And the plan this year is to invite the students on a monthly field trip, so to speak, and take them to experience these different things so that they can film their engagement. And we're talking about like Kennedy Space Center, the iFlight indoor skydiving facility. So we're trying to have the students promote the organization where we are taking them as well as showing some of their team building things that is happening within Project Stratus. So Project Stratus has been essay-based previously, but because we're doing the digital media style this year, we're going to ask the students to submit a video. I will have all of the details out to Plains and Miss Sasser in the very near future. We are also going to allow the students to design their own shirts this year, do a lot of the designing and things themselves, and maybe even something like design a new logo for next year, whatever it looks like. But we're trying to get them involved in more of the digital media stuff that can be published and put out through our contacts. Last year, I will tell you that the students got to fly with the Aeroshell team. They got to fly in the PBY. They got to go to the Stallion 51 facility in Kissimmee, which is where Crazy Horse and Crazy Horse 2 lives. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them. Lee Lauterbach's the air show performer that flies those two P-51 Mustangs. And the winner of Project Stratus actually gets to fly back on Sunday at the end of the air show in Crazy Horse with Lee back to Kissimmee. So he does log it as a training flight for them. He gives them the controls and the whole 9 yards. So that is really a once in a lifetime opportunity. These students are kind of our ACE ambassadors. So we're looking for students that want to get involved and want to get these really great experiences to sign up. So thank you guys. And again, if you have any questions, let me know.